Welcome to Roots and Ruminants, your podcast for creative and innovative use of farm, pasture, and rangeland. We're going back to the basics of raising and grazing livestock, growing your own forage, and practical land use. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Roots and Ruminants. Very fortunate on a balmy 38-degree February day. Coldest day in the 10-day forecast that I can see. We're getting to the 50s.
That's so weird.
We're going to have a nice little warm-up. Happy to have with us as a guest today a good friend of mine, Garrett Masat. Garrett and I have known each other for well over a decade, and really happy to have him join. I would say, Garrett, we've done our own version of the Roots and Ruminants podcast dozens of times, shoot side by the silencer at your place, breeding heifers, right?
Absolutely, yes. Started a long time ago, yep.
So happy to have him on. We can share some of the things that we would normally talk about in our chats over the phone or at the sale barn or working cattle at his place. So, Garrett, if you want to get us started, would you give us just a background of your guys' operation there in Spink County, how you started, and then kind of lead into when you came back, right back to the operation a while back?
Yeah, well, thanks, Jared, for having me on here. So my operation kind of started back when I was, actually it was the first time that soybeans got high, and I had 48 acres of soybeans, and I sold them for like $19 a bushel or some skewed number. And little did I know that when you do that, you have an income tax problem, right? And I've always been really passionate about cattle, and I talked to my dad, and I was like, I kind of want to calve out some bred heifers. He was like, all right, that's fine, and just an avenue to help with the tax situation. So I went and bought my first potload of bred heifers, and from that point on, I really enjoyed it. I really was fascinated with it, and then I believe that spring I was talking to Jared at Baxter's Bull Sale, I believe, and just kind of like I didn't know anything really about heifer development, and we kind of got into a program of buying some high quality replacement heifers. We started with what did we start with, Jared? 38, and we AI'd them 3 times,
Yep.
3 different times to get them all AI bred because I wasn't ready to buy a bull. And from that point on, I used to calve them out and sell them as pairs, and had a good following with that. And then as time expanded or time went on, I've been having people ask me to sell bred heifers. So I started breeding more heifers and using Jared's guidance and on from ABS Global and Siemens, and we started to really get a good, decent sized heifer and some really good repeat customers back here on my operation. So that's kind of in a little bit of a nutshell how I was able to have my own cow herd in Spink County, where there's, especially Crandon Township, where there's not very many acres of grass, and the grass is usually in your salt flats and your low bottoms.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with cows? Did your family have cows, or was that group of bred heifers the first group?
Nope. So I guess generations always had cattle, always have had the cows grazing on the tougher ground. Our herd size here, we can never really get into the large herd size because most of our ground was broken during the homestead in this pocket. So, I mean, it's typically feeders here, or you know what I mean, or corn production and feeder cattle. And so my grandpa actually bought his first two Angus cattle back in, he told me the other day, 1954, and that's actually where our cow herd started, was those 2 heifers. And so through the generations, we've had cows, but I could never really get the numbers I wanted just because of the area we lived in. So developing heifers was a really good plan, I thought, to sustain, in my terms, a cow herd. My dad and my brother and I built a feedlot in 2006, a permitted feedlot, and we just kept expanding that deal here in the last 10 years. So we got the feedlot is the main part of the operation, and my sideline, and I have a high interest in heifer production.
So is the feedlot kind of designated to developing heifers, or is it the feedlot to
The
finish?
feedlot is designated to finish cattle. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. So
But it
yep.
comes in as a real handy tool there as you're putting these heifers
Oh,
together throughout the
Yeah.
fall, winter, getting them grouped up, breeding on them, AI in them before. Some of those go to grass, some would stay in the lot, right, Garrett,
yes. Yep. Yep.
during gestation.
Yep. We normally, well, I mean, we breed the heifers, and the ones that we 30 days later we ultrasound, and those go to grass, and then the ones that are bred, later on are usually dry lotted until we can find, until there's some little grass that we can kick them out to for 30 days, and then we usually go to corn stalks with them. So the feedlot is, I mean, the heifer development would not be taking place if the feedlot wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Garrett, I want to go back up a little bit, back to the 38 head group. That was 2012, 13. What year was that? 11?
Hoover Dam, Brilliance, and Absolute were big bulls that year, Jared. So what was the?
That could be that could be a
That would have
range,
been.
but
That could be like
Brilliant's been around a long
2013. We'll go with 2013.
let's
Yeah.
start 2013. Let's date it. Yeah, that's got to be about right. And then you kind of escalated rather quickly after that, right? I mean, went
Yeah.
from hey, let's do a little group to a big group. One thing I want to point out, you built in that was a good time to start. Like, there was, it was kind of like starting to, if you just started feeding cattle like 3 years ago, you're like, this is cool.
Yeah.
They're worth like $500 every 6 months
Yeah.
more, like you can't go wrong. It was a really good time and, to kind of scale up partially. But what you did very differently than most people, because back then, in 14, 15, 16, we were breeding 10 to 15,000 head a year some of those years. I mean, that one year we were the largest ABS dealer in North America. And but then most people dropped off a cliff in 16, right?
Yep.
It was like, oh, never doing that again. You did the opposite. And you created a lot of optionality in how you marketed those heifers, moved a lot into calving and selling pairs as time be. And you grew your business all the way through that kind of crash in 16, 17, and then really the doldrums, right, of the last, 7 or 8 years. Every year I remember we were breeding, for 5, 6 years in a row there. What are heifers going to be worth? And we were always like, too high by like $400 because it just never moved. It never moved until the last 2 years. So, tell everybody a little bit about that. Some creative ways that you, saved on cost or did things different from a marketing standpoint to really turn. You could have threw in the hat in 2016 and said, "Never doing this again. I lost money on this group." You didn't.
Right. So I would really say that the customer base that I've created and the friendships I've created and the trust that people have in the cattle that I can sell to them really help that. I learned a valuable lesson there in 15. I think every cattle feeder did. But during the 17 and the 18 and the 19 years there, you weren't making a lot of money per head. And I figured out that you had to have quantity to make some money. It can work for you, it can work it against you. And I guess that's you just kind of stick with it. You do some stuff that you don't really want to do. You might not have to you might can't go to the lake this weekend. You're doing stuff that you have to dig down and do it. Some cost saving things is that, I was fortunate enough to find a lot of cheap feed stuff. I was fortunate enough to find some grass to rent. A lot of the big things that saved me a ton of money during them years was AI, where we could breed a heifer for 75 to 85 bucks a head versus going to buy a bull and having $150 a head into a bred heifer. Right there, 60 bucks. Well, that sometimes is what you made during them times on a bred heifer sale. You got to keep them cattle in condition. The biggest thing is you got to sort disposition out. You got to sort the cattle up, and and those cattle are fine for finishing, but they're not good breeders. And that's some of the ways that I cheapened it up. I would say a lot have to do with it was with the AI in them and 30 days getting the breds to grass, because if you don't ultrasound that early, that's another 60 days that I have to put inputs into them opens before they can go out fat.
remember a lot of years where we would do a January group. You'd ultrasound at 28, 29, 30 days right away, reseeder those and get another crack at them for March. So they're still only exposed for 2 cycles. Like, most people bull breeding would be doing 3 or sometimes 4. Still only exposed for 2 cycles, but doing the entire thing, doing, 700, 800 heifers, 900 heifers without a bull in the place some years.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we did. And yeah, it's just math, you gotta, yeah. Yep. We turned them cattle a lot to get them AI bred. Yep.
That's
And
incredible.
the AI breds at the sale barn at that particular time, there was $150 profit, or $150. They were worth
Premium.
$150 a head more premium. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
How,
you
so
also were
then
willing.
at the end,
Go ahead, Justin.
well, I just so at the end of that time frame, right? So maybe you AI them 3 times. At the end of that, or your sort offs for dispositions or whatever, those are probably going back into your feedlot, right? Like you're not just
Yeah.
dumping them. You're still
No, no,
so
no.
there too, right? Like we're taking advantage of the situation, and we're still capturing some value there at least, and
Yep.
utilizing what you got there.
Yep. I always, if I could make a few dollars on the open selling them as fats, I figured the bred heifers would make money that year. So that's
Yeah,
kind of how I
sure.
always,
It sure is well better. Yeah.
yeah, it's better, right?
Yeah. We did some breeding to Charolais bulls. We went through a big band era where we were breeding a lot of
Yep.
black heifers Charolais. You ended up calving a lot of those out just to get people more comfortable with the concept of that and selling those, smoky calves and black heifers as pairs, right?
Yep. Yep. I did that for 3 years there, and then unfortunately, how the industry changes, black cattle, and then
Yeah.
a lot of them Charolais guys that are breeding Charolais kind of either went and started running yearlings, or they switched their cow herd to all black. So that kind of went a wayside. But boy, I mean, if you have a set of if you're finishing your own cattle, I mean that Big Ben, boy, he can put the pounds on, and it can be done in a large amount. That can be done. Those are good cattle, dang good cattle.
So maybe on to that, so you said you got a pretty consistent customer base and kind of tried to stay loyal to them. Like, what are they asking from you, and then how do you get into the selection side of purchasing heifer calves? What are you looking for, and how's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of even how it's changed over the years too.
So we actually, in the process of doing all this, um, I've been selling heifers to people for 7, 8 years now, and their cow herds are actually turning into my heifers. And I have a kind of a buy, not really, it's a buyback program. You got good heifers, I'll buy them back, absolutely. So what I sort for, or what I look for, is your good Angus headed cattle with some stretch to them, and you got to have that bone in the front legs. You got to have the bone. Disposition's key. You don't. I mean, when you breed an Angus female, I got a sudden cattle that they can get bred anyway. They can get bred Charolais, they can get bred Simmental, they can get bred Gelbvieh, they can do whatever they want to. But you got to start with a good Angus heifer. And I mean, just big bone cattle, disposition. I mean, that usually does it with an Angus head. That's what you really want. That's what's desired actually out
Hmm.
in the industry. So
Yep. Yep.
How
Yeah,
many?
I hear that.
What's the most you ever calved out, Garrett, at your place in years where you were moving pairs
uh
on just the heifers that you've
uh
raised?
it's I think that one year I did 380 head of heifers I calved out in one year. That was before the hired men days. That was a lot of late nights. The biggest group I've ever done in one time was 125 head AI'd for one day, and that gets to be a
Jeepers
lot.
creepers.
Yeah,
And what's
you'll
the
have.
what's the dimension of your dimension size of your calving bars when you're
Well,
doing it
well,
out?
yeah. Back it was a. So we had. I was fortunate enough. I had a 54 by 60 hip roof barn, and I had four
Yeah.
different alleys in there. I could shut heifers, so I could fit about 60 heifers in that barn overnight. That's what I used to call my loafing barn. And then I had a heated barn, right? This ain't no magnificent heated barn. This was a 24 by 50 foot chicken coop back from 1950s that I could put 16 pairs in at a time. And I never had a cow jump over the fence in there because the ceiling was so low, there was no room between the Burns panel and the fence to jump over. So this little LB white heater and me and 16 heifers at a time. So that was a really good setup for about 60 heifers AI'd for one day. You need pen space for about
Yeah.
16 head. Um, yeah, so we would just turn 50 heifers every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. January
Yeah.
15th, Feb 1, Feb 15th, March 1, March 15th, and then we'd go with usually a bigger run there towards the end of March, just because the weather
Yeah.
usually turned.
I keep
Yeah.
thinking, so a lot of our listeners are probably, younger, beginning farmers trying to figure something out, learn something. And the way you got started was, I mean, it made sense, right? Like you had a little extra cash or got to spend some money, but you found something that you could add value to,
Yeah,
and
100%.
with a little bit of sweat equity and grit and
Oh yeah.
hard work, and doing something that an established cattleman probably didn't want to do with calving heifers. Um, you add value to that. So I think, I don't know, it's something always to remember. And then even starting off the way you do, like we get into these I don't know, we see these established ranches and farms, and it's obviously where we want to get to, but if you don't start with nothing, you can never build to something. And so you do have to utilize what you have for facilities, machinery, capital, land, all that. You just kind of got to grow into it too, I think. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, no, you can get creative pretty quickly. Anything you can add value to. I mean, I still even think right now to this day that if you can find some good set of heifers, especially for these guys listening, and you find a good set of bred heifers right now, boy, I think you can add $1,000 bill to them pretty quickly. I think this year.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, a little bit of unborn LRP to protect yourself somewhat, and
Yep.
you, they cash flow even at the market today. So Garrett, what's you're probably sold out for this year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No heifers left to sell. Yeah.
No, I still got a potload
Oh,
pairs.
you do. Okay. Oh, the
Potload of
pairs. Okay.
pairs. Yep. 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 Bred
Yep.
heifers are all gone. Yep.
Yep. What is the current market of bred heifers as you've been watching it? I'm not asking what you'd sold yours for earlier, but it keeps jumping by $200 to $300 almost a week. It seems like.
Yeah. I've been seeing I mean, you get your outliers, right? But I mean, you got to
Yeah.
come back to reality. It looks like that if you got quality heifers that'll weigh up decent, you're anywhere from that 47 to 5,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's going to cost if your $3,800 bred heifers now kind of jumped up to 42, 40, 41, 42, and then you got
Yeah.
your medium cut cattle in the middle. Easily, I think we've added $500 to this thing in the last 60 days.
Yeah. Yep. Those early sales were the buy this year because it did not. Some years it doesn't go anywhere, and it's like, oh, why would I buy them for this much in November when I can turn around and wait till February and get them 3 weeks before they're going to calve? That did not work this year for people holding out.
No, and it's been in northern plains here. It's been a fairly easy winter. Not a lot of feed have to go into these cattle, and
Yeah.
yeah, this would have been that would have been the story of the past 5 years. Really, is to buy them heifers as soon as you can. People thought you probably personally thought you were crazy doing it, but boy, it kind of panned out.
Yeah. So you're pretty stable in your numbers, growing some, but pretty stable in your numbers. You don't oscillate too much with the market. You're definitely not a bred heifer speculator, right? But you know
No,
plenty of
no,
them, right? The guys that step in, yep, I got a feed yard. I won't do any bred heifers, and then every 4 to 5 years, I'm going to jump in and do 1,000 of them. But
yeah.
you have to see that show up when it's starting to hit like that when you're buying those heifer calves, right? So based on what you're seeing buying heifer calves, how much more retention is going on this year than the last couple of years, or maybe not?
Well, I'm no USDA guy, but they said here a week, 10 days ago that the herd hasn't expanded, and I kind of find that hard to believe a little bit. But then also, again, I mean, our receipts in the sale barns haven't been huge in the Northern Plains. I mean, there's still 600 heifers selling. There's not the 1,500 to 2,000 heifers selling, but the replacement heifers are starting to take off, especially the good quality ones, the load lot ones. They're starting to. I mean, they probably have added 300 to 400 bucks a head here in the last 60 days as well. I mean, the market's also gone up that much too, but or not quite that much. But I mean, there's some retention starting to happen, and there's
Yeah.
some heifers going to get bred that probably shouldn't get bred too. That this is the time that there's going to be a big spread next year between good cattle,
Quality.
and there is this year. There is this year too.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, $1,000 difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's starting. I think it's starting slowly. I don't think
Yeah.
it's your Kansas feed yards are filling up with 2,000 of them and breeding them like they did in 14. But I think your farmer feeders are starting to maybe add 10, 20 more to their herd. I think everybody kind of is a little bit. Why wouldn't you at these
Yep.
prices? Eventually, you're going to run into a tax problem. So why best
Yep.
thing you can do is not sell your heifers and just breed them.
Yeah. I also think that this time in the cycle versus 10 years ago where we were, the number of ranches and farms that don't keep their own heifers back is way higher. There's a lot more people that have punted
Oh
on
yeah.
that and buy bred heifers versus keeping their own. Whereas when we saw this last time, there was still a whole bunch of places that didn't do that, right? The only time they brought heifers if we took on new grass or a kid was coming back, you might stock up a little bit for a new opportunity, but you really relied on your own replacements, and that has gone down appreciably, I think.
I would agree. Yeah, I think to a point. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
One of the
So we're
things we
going
were
to need
talking
more
about,
people developing heifers to meet that already. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, onto that point, Jared, so last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about on the podcast, just the value per head is kind of a set value per head for feeder calves right now. And we're talking about some of these later calves being an easier sell because we have less into them and we can calve them just a little bit later. So we have less labor into them. How does that differ from the mentality of someone like you who's trying to buy a heifer at a certain weight to get developed earlier to get into a January calving time period? Can you talk through that? Like maybe my question is this: how big do you want to buy a heifer? How early do you want to buy a heifer? What are you looking for when you're starting to put together a group to develop and breed?
Well, it really depends on the time of year. Actually, my favorite time to buy replacement heifers is right off the cow. If you can get, there's something weird about it, and I can't explain it, but there is something weird. If you can get a heifer that weighs 530 pounds off of the cow versus a 510-pound heifer, them 25 pounds there is big, and the heifers seem to grow a lot better and a lot better. So like off the cow, I'm looking at five and a quarters, 550s. You can get some 6 weight heifers, but your dollars get a lot, and most of the time them cattle don't really fit the ticket. And a 6 weight heifer off the cow in the fall is really tough to find. So we want to get uniform sets of a lot of heifers. So we don't just want to have a 6 weight heifer and a 5 weight heifer in the same pen. No, we want them cattle all the same. And as time goes on, every month you want to add 50, 60 pounds to that. So like now 1st of February timeframe here, I mean, we got to be in the sevens if we're going to buy good quality cattle. Because I mean, you always ask yourself, well, why is that heifer weighing 650 right now? Well, it's probably it's a later calf, right? May born. Is its mom's genetics not, did it get bred late? Is that why it's in there? Do I want that? No, I don't want that. So, I mean, you want to have some good size, but I don't think you need to be going out and trying to buy 9 weight heifers right now to get them bought. Yeah, there's great quality, and yeah, it can fit some tickets. And if you know the guy's cattle across the road or your neighbors or whatever, yeah, absolutely, that's a green light. But like for me, I don't want to be spending that much money on 9 weight heifers right now. Plus, they've probably been pushed. And I don't want heifers that have
Yeah.
Yeah,
been pushed either. I want you know, medium flesh cattle at the most,
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with them getting too big right now as we go into breeding, and we talked about this every year, Garrett. 30 years ahead of time, if you're on the 14-day cedar or MGA, that's when you step up to mega cows, right? You flush them. You add that extra, energy to them to try to get them to be more fertile. And if they already weigh 9, it's pretty hard to be able to like add more groceries to them when time comes. You'd rather have them, 200 pounds lighter and on an up, tick in nutrition than you would at a
Yeah.
9 kind of losing weight as you come into breeding season.
Right. And then the first place that fat develops is on the udder. Well,
Yeah.
Hmm.
why do I want to sell one of my customers a heifer that's a fat udder that's going to be in 4 years, the bag's going to be blown out. I mean
Yeah.
that's not what we're at. That's not what I'm after. Let's do it
Yeah.
right. Let's
Yep.
so
Well, so then at the end of the game, when you're selling bred heifers at the first of the year, what do you want those to weigh?
I want them
Or is there a
to.
value for bigger ones?
So that's a tricky question. Um, right, weight. It's like a good horse. Weight always sells. I mean,
Hmm.
let's be honest.
Yeah.
Can you get them heifers too big? Absolutely, you can get them too big. You want them to have a little condition on them. You don't want them to be green. You want them to be in dang good condition. Um, you know, I think around that 1175 to 12 and a quarter is where you need to be. But I've actually noticed myself as time goes on, genetics get better. Heifers are better. The weight goes up with the heifers
Yeah.
on the same ration. So I wouldn't be scared of a 1,200-pound heifer that has the frame to hold it. Now, a four
Hmm.
frame cow, with a weighing 12 is a lot different than a six and a quarter frame cow weighing
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, for our listeners all around the country and world, we're in big cow country, right?
Yes.
We're not in North Dakota bordering Canada, but we're close to it. Northeast South Dakota. We're in big cow country. We just are.
Yeah, we want the 5'8" to 6'3", 4 frame cows that weigh 1575, 1,600 pounds.
Yeah.
That's our feed stuff too. They're not running out on grass all winter. They can't here.
Yeah. Most of the time have an unlimited amount of corn stalks, so we don't need to limit them that way or even hardly rotate them too hard. Yeah, winter feed for the 3 to 4 months that we do it. We're at a low basis on corn. Grain prices are where they are. Hay's like $80 to $85 a ton. I mean, it's not feed's not expensive. It just isn't.
And we can.
So, okay. So I was going to also turn to that. Speaking of market reports, have you been in any bull sales yet, Garrett, this year?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I have.
How'd that go?
They're wild. They're wild.
They're wild.
They are impressive. It really is impressive. I feel like I'm a realist, and when I walked into the bull sale, I was surprised. There's a demand for them. There's a demand for good cattle.
Yeah. I went to the first one I've been to yesterday, but I've been following the reports and knowing what they're doing. I know that it's not uncommon to be $3,000-$4,000 over last year, and last year we thought they were pretty wild too. And so went to a local one yesterday that I work at and buy for a few other people, and first bull in the ring. And so it's not catalog ordered; it's ranked, sale order. And so is it the best bull? I don't know. It's top 10%, right? They were ranked by the breeder, and it comes in the ring, and it's a very local crowd, right? Not a lot of people. I don't think most everybody there that've been to a bull sale this year, and last year this bull sale averaged 6,100, so it's not bad. They put enough bulls there to kind of keep them pretty reasonable. And first bull comes in, and I just bought it for 8,000 because like wasn't doing much, and I was sitting with the local guy, and he looked at me, he's like, "Oh, big spender." I was like, "That could be the cheapest bull of the sale." And it was a little over $1,000 under the average to buy the first bull in the ring, and then once you got 3 bulls in, it was like 10 to 16,000 for the next 40.
Yeah,
But
that's
it
kind of
does
what
catch you off guard, like caught a lot of people off guard. The market had changed that much in a year,
Yeah, when the opening bid is 10,000, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
and people
Yeah.
take it. It's not. It's like the marker bid, like who'll give me 10,000. Who'll give me 4? Who'll give me 5? Who'll give me 6? No, they say who'll give me 10,000. People are waving their
Right.
hands.
Yep. Yep. but also on that aspect, I mean, cattle are worth a lot, and these guys who are buying these higher end, higher priced bulls, I mean, they're going to develop their own bulls off of
Yeah.
them. I mean, that's kind of the way that they justify doing that, is spending that much money, is making their own bulls with the same bloodline, and have load lots of half sibling cattle,
Yep.
and that are all black. I mean, they sell.
Yep. So we gotta. I know we talked about the ruminants part of this quite a bit here, but we've got to talk about the roots. Garrett, you've also done some really creative and interesting land use practices, especially on some marginal ground up by you. And I still remember. I mean, Garrett, you're quite a bit younger than Justin and I, to be honest with you. And maybe, I don't know, what you were 26, 27 years old, maybe, when you called me and was like, hey, I think I'm going to buy a section of ground. And I thought, wow, you don't mean a section. You mean like a piece, right? Like you live up by Frankfurt, where stuff is going even back then for $7,000 an acre, the good stuff. Like you're not going to buy a section. And no, you were buying a section. It was an opportunity section,
Yep.
right? Tell me a little bit about buying an opportunity section of ground in your mid 20s.
I was 22, Jared.
You were
22.
22? Okay,
I was
sorry. I shouldn't
22.
have
Yeah.
aged you so much. You're
You should have
22.
aged me, making me feel old. 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Talk about that a
You
little bit
know,
if you don't mind.
so yeah, I'll share some things with it. This property was a fixer upper.
Yeah.
Big fixer upper. Been rented ground for 20 years, I suppose, probably. Um, Jack Link's Beef Jerky actually owned the property, and that's who I bought it from on a public auction too. This was no private treaty deal. So they came in there and they broke everything they possibly could break on this section. Salt flats, you know, everything, gumbo ground. A lot of this ground was in 13 to 20 productivity on their score. Uh, Farmed it all, and I mean, if you're a cash renter or if you are an owner, you wanna have it all farmed,
Hmm.
right? Bigger check. And I had the opportunity to buy it, and I did. And a lot of these guys were just like, "What are you gonna do with that junk ground?" And I was like, "I don't know." But at the end of the day, I knew I was gonna do with it. I was gonna plant it back to grass, and I did. I established. I worked with Jared really closely on. We had two different mixes of seed.
Yep.
So I'd go out there and all around all the salt rings and around all the low spots and cattails, I would plant what's called the Hamilton blend out there, and just to get something growing. And then on the upland, I would plant. These upland pieces are not like 40-acre pieces. These are like 5-acre pieces, hilltops and
Yeah.
everything. And I'd go back in there and we plant a really good variety of cool and warm season grasses, a lot of native mixes with a lot of different species in there, broadleaves and grasses. And then a lot of this ground was cattail ground, and through cows, which we'll go back to the ruminant, through cows, I was able to get them cattail. I fenced the cattails out, and during August, I would try to get that as grazed down as hard as I possibly could. And over the course of about 4 years doing that, and actually using the cattails, I would go in there with the Moco and use them for bed, or I'd bale them and use them for bedding.
Yeah.
And it took me about 4 to 5 years, and that finally all reseeded back into Reed's Canary grass. So now we got some
Hmm.
production ground. Um, so this piece of ground is about a mile from a lake, right? So every time the lake would come up, guess what happened to your
Hmm.
water table? Water table
Yep.
would come up. So I was fortunate enough to have a tributary there that I could drain tile. A lot of these little spots of ground that you couldn't do. I mean, they're out in the middle of the field, so I could get a lot of that water infiltrated out, kind of right into the stock dam, and cows drink it now. So very fortunate on that. One interesting thing about this piece of property, and I don't know if you have told you this story before, Jared, or not, but when I started, that ground had 2 parts per million of phosphorus on it, Jared.
Ouch. It's low.
Two
It's real low.
two parts 2 parts per million of phosphorus. And with the NRCS office and cover crop mixing and putting 10 tons of manure out there every 2 years, I went from what am I at right now? 19 parts of phosphorus right now in 8 years. So
That's
pretty
crazy. That's a
pretty
big buildup.
impressive, right? That's a
Mm.
big buildup, and this was a moderate. This was a 10 ton an acre manure is hardly anything, but this was through
Yeah.
cover crops, being able to graze the cows out in the grass during the
Yep.
summer, get the crop off, graze the flown in rye in with the corn
Yep.
stalks, and able to put some of that nutrients back in the ground.
Yeah. Really cool.
It's awesome. Once again, finding value.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah.
what's the mix on that section now? How much of it's in permanent pasture? How much of it's in kind of that crop rotation with cover crops and grazing?
There's roughly so when I bought it, I left there was 100 acres of grass there, and that
Yep.
stayed. So out of the 640 acres, there is 340 that is into crop ground now instead
Okay.
of 400 or
Yep.
540.
Yep. But a perfect amount of crop ground that pairs up right with it to just open the gate,
Yep.
in the fall, and then just not even have to haul the stalks and things like that. Just a
Yep.
good sized place for a nice group of cows to live for most of the year.
Yep. Yep. And that's where I turn my replacement heifers out on. So yeah, it works out
Okay.
great. I gather them in December before the snowstorm and get them home and get them conditioned up and calve them.
Yep. So Garrett, right in where you farm, you have, it's like a Charles Dickens novel, A Tale of Two Cities, but it's a tale of two different types of farm ground. You have some of the worst of the worst and some of the best of the best, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, talk a little bit about that. How broadly crop rotation practices, whatever. How do you change your mentality when you go from the best of the best to the worst of the worst?
Close your eyes and plant through the salts. No, that is not the right thing. So the best of the best is you manage it like Northwest Iowa corn management.
Yeah.
That's what you do. The tougher ground is the bigger challenge. It's really impressive if you have a bare quarter that you have 30 acres of salts on that you've been planting through the last 10 years, and if you plant it back to grass or forage or pasture, what your APH actually does on that ground then. I mean,
Yeah.
you will jump 15 to 20% pretty easily in the first year,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And your crop rotation is important. Beans appear to me, this is probably a personal thing, but it seems like these beans are really tough on this ground. And the Jim River Valley is a salt flat. I mean, from however many millions of years ago, it comes from the bedrock, and that's tough to control. Yeah, I guess there's one other thing on that is talking to different clients I have is that I think this cow expansion in South Dakota and eastern South Dakota is happening, and I think it's on this marginal ground. It's not putting it back to
Yeah.
grass. It's putting full season cover crops on these poor pieces of ground that you can open a gate to.
Yeah.
I think that's really where, I mean, boy, if you can get some of that stuff, man, it's going to cash flow better than planting soybeans.
Yeah, I know we've probably talked about this in the last 4 podcast episodes almost, in some different ways, but we talk about that too. And I was like, okay, trying to figure out how to grow the cow herd. It's like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I do it on the home half section, the home section, the stuff across the road? Why wouldn't I put the next 30, 40, 20, 30, 40, 50 cows that I want in a place where I can see them from my window? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't I do that rather than trying to look 30 miles away to find, an expensive piece of grass to rent and have to drive and corral them? It's a huge factor of convenience to be able to like add them right next to your property, and you can trail them into the working facility that's already existing instead of you have to set up and lots of stuff. Yeah, like that. And
And
it's almost like we're not looking at that as the first good expansion opportunity. We're looking at it way too far in the horizon. We're looking past the low hanging fruit expansion opportunity, past our crop fields, because they're crop fields, to go find what will be expensive grass somewhere else.
yes, grasses. Yeah, I mean, it's probably actually the best thing, even in your range management, is to do this. I mean, if you can get them pastures to not have any cattle in them in the month of July and August, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
think of your warm seasons that are going to come back, Jared. I mean, it's
Yeah,
going to be pretty
yeah,
impressive. You do that for
yeah,
a couple years in a row,
yeah.
you're not solid brome grass anymore, are we?
Right. No, you're changing the landscape quite a bit, and that's really when the one thing that I think, if you don't have rye planted in the fall, gets people really kind of nervous about the full season grazing coverage. Is like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to plant something. What if I can't get in till the 15th or 20th or 25th of May, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there with all the cows in the lots, you're still doing chores, you're still feeding them, and you're just waiting. Especially if it's a dry spring, you're just like waiting on this optograze to grow. Before you can turn them out. If you got rye, you can use that as a transition, but doing those crop rotation fields with existing pasture, stock it like you normally would, and then just completely take them off, like you said, in 15th of July through the 1st of September. Let them completely rest for that 45 days when you're, trying to either get warm season grass expression and, deal with the fact that your cool seasons are dormant, and then come back on, and it really does change the complex.
Yeah, I think you can even run them pastures harder. You know what
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was
You
thinking.
can,
You said that.
you can. I mean, this is a question for you, Jared, because I honestly don't know the answer. But in a stereotypical rainfall in eastern half of Spink and Clark County, what do you think your grazing rate is for 60 days on full term?
60 days.
So what I would tell people is that if you have a rye warm season mix, cool season mix combination, right? So if you were just on cropland only and trying to run cows for the summer, and you had an 80-acre piece of rye that was going to come that you could stock early and hard, and then you had another piece that you could come in with the cool season optograze, Justin, right? Something like that, planted in April on the other 80 that you could come into after you come off the rye. And then as you come off the rye, you can go back in with a warm season grazing mix, premium graze, ranch hand, something like that, and have those 3 plantings. I'd say if rainfall is average, I would say that you can stock that 2x of what you would figure on your normal, kind of moderate to low productivity, kind of boggy, cool season brome grass pasture. I think that's right. And that rye helps so much because on a good year you can stand that thing for a long time through 10th, 15th of June, and you can't abuse it too much. I mean, it's just so hardy, and that gives everything time to come on board. So we're typically 4.5 acres per pair, and in that system, I think it's more like 2 acres per pair to get you through. Justin, thoughts?
I like the way you said that. Yeah, I think that all makes a lot of sense.
Is that too aggressive?
No, I don't think that's too aggressive. I do think giving it some sort of context of where you're at based off of your typical stocking rates of perennial pasture is the right way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we will say, and this is why I think your numbers are right. We are typically 2.5 acres per pair on pasture. Yeah. And if we do an annual grazing system like this, we will say 1 pair per acre.
Yeah.
We'll shorten up those days though, because and I'll usually say a pair per acre for 100 days here.
Yeah.
You just can't quite get that length of grazing.
The length. Yeah.
So in context.
Go ahead. Yep.
So putting math to where if you're running 4 acres of cow and you got to go cash rent it, we'll just say for $100 an acre, right?
Yep.
And you're running 2x on this other ground. I mean, that's $200 an acre cash rent, right? Or is it not?
Well, so your expenses are much different than if you're annual crop farming and things like that. So if you run the numbers just based on like the value of feed, so this is a complete rerun from last time, but it's fine because we can bring up more context.
Keep talking about this.
If you look at it from animal unit months or like what it would cost, or like, hey, let's say you could feed those pairs with a feeder wagon or a TMR, right? And you say, well, is it cheaper to just feed them with a feeder wagon, or is it cheaper to put them on an annual grazing mix? You don't get it. You might get it to compete with beans. It'll definitely beat wheat. It won't beat corn. Corn will still dollar up more. But I look at it as like, but do I have that alternative? I'm not dry lighting cows, right? It's just not my thing. I think calf health is bad. I don't think it's the same animal that you wean off. And I think if you did it continually, I think you would actually build a reputation as like, oh, those are the calves. You could see it in the calves, or they would know that like, okay, those are dry lighted calves. And they're probably going to have more respiratory issues because they've been exposed to way more dust early. They didn't get the same environment. So I don't even think apples to apples equivalent to say a dry lighted calf versus a calf coming off of a grazing system. So if you're not willing to dry lot, well then I can't make that comparison. And then the animal unit months comparison is to say, well, do I have a pasture available anyway? No,
Right.
I don't. Like
Right.
no one's coming up every other week to offer me a quarter of pasture within, 5 miles, 10 miles, 30 miles or anywhere. So I can chase really far away stuff, right? And really far away stuff can be an adventure, but it is also tricky. I mean, it's not uncommon to go into the Siston Hills, and be like, I guess I'm short 12 calves, and I'm a non-brand inspected place. I guess I'm just out them, and they went somewhere, right? I mean, there's risks to that are pretty real. You're going to pay quite a bit, and you're going to spend a lot of your summer driving up to see them and hoping you don't get a call at midnight when you're 2 hours away, even if you're in your own bed, that something's going wrong. So what is my alternative? If I want to grow the more profitable,
Right.
part of my operation, I can't really make that comparison to say, okay, if I could rent $70 an acre grass, I would just do that, but I can't. If I can, I will. But beyond that, how do I grow beyond those limitations? And then you look at it and say, okay, amortize a 6 weight, feeder steer in the fall over 2 acres, and that's a lot of money. It's a lot of revenue.
What about
That's the revenue number.
Yep, that's revenue. So yeah. So what about just running grass cattle out on this stuff? Has anybody ever asked you that? I mean, what is your
Justin, yeah,
cost of gain going to be cheaper than grass? Should be, right?
Should be. Yep. And yeah, I mean, it does seem that it's just a logistical game with fencing and
Right.
watering for
yeah,
yearlings versus a mama cow it's harder.
Well,
yeah,
right, and
But
the benefit of this is that, I mean, if you have a fence around it, you can graze corn stalks the next year on it. So, I mean, that fence, that one time putting that fence
yeah,
up
yeah,
isn't a
yeah,
waste at all.
yeah.
yeah. The grass cattle thing is can be tricky though too, because a lot of the things that we're planting, especially the brassicas and even the sorghums and sedans, are very watery. They're
That's
very
yeah.
watery.
The one thing is
Eh,
just that dry matter intake of a calf.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
And then you
So,
talk to the stocker yearling guys, the harder, the more native the grass,
oh
the
yeah,
better the gain is. Even the
every
washier,
time.
cool season grasses don't gain as well. Yeah. Yeah. That
Good
I
point.
think is the biggest limitation is the
That's
water
yeah.
content of the annual forages.
Be like grazing in June every month, won't it? I mean, watery stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, on the cow side, it's the most common sense way to grow most everybody's cow herd right now is to do this for a year or 2 or 3 or however long you want. I'm
And not lock up your ground in permanent pasture either. I
hmm
mean, it's going to change at some point. Maybe Jared
Yeah,
doesn't think
that's
so,
a
but I
really
mean it.
uh, that's a
I
long-term deal to plant something into grass. That's a long-term deal.
It is, and like Garrett, we've talked about it too. I mean, if I'm gonna make that long term commitment, I'm gonna look for the best value opportunities to get paid for it being long term, and that's a strategy as well. It's not for
Mhm.
everybody, and I'm not here to promote easements and stuff, and everybody make their own decision, but you can get paid pretty well for that opportunity too if you want in the right area. So if I get one of those opportunities, I can really make that work. Is I'll tie it up for a long period of time if I'm getting rewarded well enough.
Or at least compensate for that lost year of production or the lost year of
Yeah.
use while you wait for things to establish. I think that's
Yes.
key
Yeah.
because that,
But
yeah, if you're going to,
the right set of programs, bundled, later on top of each other can make a lot of sense too.
yeah,
I think it's do a little bit of all of it, right? Um, everybody everybody looks for like the singular answer and say, okay, I want the best answer for a 1 acre spreadsheet, and I want to apply that to all acres on my operation because I want to do the most of the best thing and all of the best thing. It's like that's usually not right.
Nope, usually not.
Just like your heifer development, you start with options, you end with options.
Every time. Every
Yep.
time you always do,
You got to use the sort gate. Do it on your ground too.
Yep. Sort gate, That's important. Very important. So,
Good. That's coming. Justin, you got any other questions for Garrett?
No, I mean, I think I think your take on just finding the best value and being flexible with how you're going about it is such a great lesson for a lot of folks to listen to. And so it's not a cookie cutter approach to everything that we do. We know that, but it's just like, yeah, think a little bit differently, keep things open, be flexible with how
Mm-hmm.
you're going about it.
yep. Be
Love it.
diverse,
Yeah,
but be diverse
yeah,
big enough where it matters, too.
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
not everything has to be done like grandpa did it or dad did it. I mean, if you're just trying to start out right now, it's an uphill battle, and you gotta think
Yeah.
outside the box and do some stuff that people aren't willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other
Uh,
thing too, we talk about like running these numbers. I mean, things are expensive, and it's like, holy
Yeah.
buckets, how are you ever making this work? Well, yeah, there's still a lot of ways to make money in the cattle business. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
there's
Yep.
still
And I
an
think there always
undervalued
will be
critter is.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the homework and figuring out where that undervalued one is at is what it takes. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but when the when they reach their optimal value, then all of a sudden, for wherever you start at, right? And it could be a set of ball and, 5 weight heifers, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 at a time. That seems like a lot, and turn them into, a $5,200, $5,300 3-year-old cow, right? I mean,
yeah,
Yep.
that's a great appreciation, and you got a calf to sell to boot on the way. It's long term, but the cattle values are starting to add up to where, the money that they're producing is pretty significant. Another friend of mine was able to buy, kind of a 75-acre piece that really rounded out, some properties that they have, and really exciting, overly expensive, and it's like, okay, I got a little cash, but I got to put $500,000 in here to boot to pretty much make the deal work. It's a little over $500,000. It's a lot of money, this and that. And then it's like, well, that's like 100 bred heifers, I mean, I'm selling, about that many or more, every year. It's like, we put it in that perspective. It's like, I expanded the
yeah,
permanent footprint of my operation for, the bulk of my heifer crop from last year's calf crop,
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yep.
okay. Yeah. You put it that way, and it didn't seem so bad,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's only five
you
brand
know?
new pickups. I mean,
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
you can have five brand new pickups in the next 25 years. I don't know if that's your
Right.
style. Yeah. I mean, you are.
Yeah,
If it's not your style, you're not going to have one, So,
exactly. Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot of money to operate now. And, I mean, things are good, in the cattle industry, but just proceed with
Yeah.
caution. Always proceed
I
with
sp-
caution.
spoke at a conference last week. Really well done, and but majority row crop producers, right? Some mixed practice guys, but most of these people are, majority, corn soybean farmers. And I was on a panel, right? So basically, get asked about a dozen different times in a dozen different paraphrased way. What gets you excited about the next 30 years of farming? It's like, is I really wanted to give a lot of answers that were broadly applicable to the crowd, and I was like, I really I'm not. I don't know what to tell you. Like, what the great excitement would be in the next 30 years on grains. Like, it's hard. It's difficult to be honest and optimistic in that. But I could talk about livestock quite a bit, and it's like, I don't want to make everybody feel bad here that doesn't have livestock. A lot of people came up to me afterwards, and not the people I expected. Right? Some that I know that have been very good at scaling a row crop operation to significant levels, right? 5 figures plus, on acreage in a given year with no livestock, that were kind of like, yeah, if we look 30 years out, it is pretty difficult for us to have much that excitement too. And it's like, this might be our path. It's like, again, you don't have to have a wooden hip roof barn. You don't have to go tamp in 2,000 railroad ties and put up sucker rods, right? Like everything you thought of the cattle business 30 years ago, 20 years ago when you got out, this is portable corrals and polywire, and this is a whole different deal. This is
Portable
not what you think
calving
it was.
barns. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, freestanding panels, like it's a
skid steer with
very different
tracks.
game than
I
it was.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's a lot
You're,
different than it used to be to get in.
no, that
And I,
you're correct, Jared, and I think that is the excitement is the next 30 years because I mean the from 2015 to 2020, I mean think of how many young producers just exited it doesn't even have to be
yeah,
young. It just everybody exited the cattle market, and I think this is a direct correlation because of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I mean maybe they're going to get back in, but I mean this could be exciting times if you're just starting out. I envy that of those guys just starting out right now because you can just dream the
yeah.
world and you don't know where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you got a stable business and row crop or job or whatever
Yeah,
it is, you don't have to have buy 200 head at this market,
no,
right?
absolutely
But
not.
build your skill set on 30, 40 head. Get good at
Yeah,
what you do before you scale it, and that's
yeah,
important too.
yeah. Make sure you're passionate about it before you scale it.
Yeah,
Make sure you're passionate about it.
yeah. We're going to the farm show on Friday because my girls, they want a Simmental heifer sale up there. There's 22 heifers. Their halter broke. They're fit. They're pretty. They're nice. And kids really want to skip school to go buy cattle. And at first I was like, I was like, what am I thinking? Why wouldn't I jump at that? Like
Yeah.
my kids want to
Take
like
them.
skip school to go hang out with us and and buy cattle. Like we're going. Like
Yeah.
absolutely. Like no question about it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Get them in.
Yep. Okay.
Well, this has been
Garrett, anything
awesome.
for us?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got
Anything
anything we
for you?
missed?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
We got a lot more time to talk at the shoot than this. I'll tell you that
I
much.
know. I know. We got to get that scheduled. We got to get that scheduled sometime. Probably pencil in some True North. The way it sounds.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
for guys starting out here, I think that True North bull is appears to be a pretty good bull. I'm he reminds me he started out like the patriarchs, and he's
Yeah.
got some excellent calf vigor. I mean, I've never seen
Hmm.
calves get up and go like this, but not wild, just get up and go,
Yeah.
get up and nurse and get going. Um, Here lately, I think I got my first group of 50. I got 4 left, and usually with your AIs, when you AI breed them, their first ones are always small, and then towards the end,
Hmm.
you can tell how if they're calving ease or not, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
these True Norths are hanging right in there. I mean, yeah, they get they get a little bigger. I mean, that's just naturally how it works. Gestation's longer. Add 2 weeks into it, but they're hanging right in there. And that True North is that's a pretty dang good bull. A lot of True Norths coming out of Magnitude sire heifers.
Nice.
That is a fun combination. If you guys want to start your own heifers or keep your own heifers, I would really encourage that Magnitude. They
Yeah.
got the frame. You can do whatever you want with them cows as far as putting a bull
Yeah.
onto them. They got disposition is absolutely excellent. You can breed them however you want. So that Magnitude bull and that True North sired calf outside, that's something special. It's fun when it works. It's fun when it really works. So,
There's two things that Garrett and I usually talk about that it's funny because neither one of them, despite the fact that Angus has added like 15 new EPDs in the last 10 years since we've started this, neither one of these are represented at an EPD today. And the one is calf vigor, right? It's really, really important, especially in the cold.
yeah.
All the time. Let's say all the
Yeah.
time. In July, it's important because of flies.
Yep.
I mean, like, how soon are you going to get up and suck and start walking around and following the heifer, following the cow? So we always talk about that, try to figure out, okay, we want them to be quality, but like calf vigor saves a lot of problems. Directly correlated to like the length of time, after partition to getting colostrum in you. Like
Oh.
you can go to any feed meeting and talk about how that like it's to the minute, right? Like every 30 minutes that goes by is just worse and worse and worse and more problems before they get colostrum. The other one is full gestation length versus short gestation length, right? Because you can have calving ease in two different ways. One, you can have them just the right size that they need to be, or you can just have them born 10 days before the gestation date. So
Yeah.
is True North a early gestation or a full gestation? Because Hoover Dam was our big example of like a true 280, 279, 280 gestation length. What are the True Norths like? Are they early or are they on time?
Well, we AI'd them for a 283 day for February 10th due date, and I have 4 left. So
Early. A little early.
Yeah.
yeah, a little early. And that's fine with me.
Normal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
Hoover Dams, yeah, they'd run past. Hoover Dams would definitely run past a lot. Your absolutes, remember them absolute bulls? They would throw some of them calves 24, 5, 6 days early.
Too early.
Yep. And
A little too early.
yep. But no, that True North that's a dang good bull. So ABS did a good
So
job.
if anybody from
selecting
the
him.
Anybody from the American Angus Association is listening, or any other breed association, two good ideas for new EPDs coming out. Gestation
Yeah.
length. I think Australia Angus does a gestation length EPD. I
Do
know
they?
there's one breed in the U.S. There's one minor breed in the U.S. that does it. I can't remember if it's Brangus or if it's Santa Gertrudis or something like that. But
What an easy thing to measure. I mean, unless you're
yeah,
breeding,
right,
but
right. The data
vigor
pretty much
too, though.
everybody has all the data already. Yeah. Oh, vigor. Yeah.
Bigger.
Easy
Yeah,
score.
Vigor,
that's-
you'd have to score. You just score it. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
Do you do that with a stopwatch, Jared, or how would you get to the 1, 2, 3, 4 category? That would be interesting to hear your perspective. Like, who is gonna I'm just
that's
asking. Like,
true.
you can take birth weight, right? Are you
Yeah.
clicking the stopwatch, or are you?
I would do well. So I would say, I would do it similar to calving ease scores, so you didn't have like a metric data involved, right? So like you do calving ease direct, calving ease maternal. A 1 would be, within 30 minutes up, sucking, unassisted, untouched, right?
Sure.
2 would
Yep.
be within an hour. 3 would be, up to 4 hours, like problematic, whatever, not very good. A 4 would be like had to help it suck, had to get it up, get in the chute, like get it up there, help it nurse. And a 5 would be like had to tube it,
Yeah, yeah, right. Like the 19, yeah, yep. Back in the good days with the 80s, that'd be
Yeah, we had to
bigger
pull them
butt.
all, then tube them all, and then reintroduce them to their cow and try and get pair up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's that True North is good. Yeah, Vigor is great. I've never seen it. It was literally 10 below, and that cow had the calf outside on bedding, and by the time I walked to the barn to open the pen and came back, that calf was up and sucking, and it was 10 below. Now, probably
Chilly.
would not have made it, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's 10 below outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might have made it without ears or tails or feet, but
Yeah.
it would have been discounted significantly. Well, Garrett, that's been going a while. We appreciate your time. Lots of stuff
For
you could be
sure.
doing today outside of talking to us, but we appreciate joining us.
Yeah, thank you
sharing
guys
your
for
perspective.
talking to you guys.
Sounds good.
Very good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. All right. See ya.
Well, we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Roots and Ruminants podcast. Let us know what you thought of it. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those social media things. And, if you ever have any questions, just give us a call. We've got a toll-free number here at 888-498-7333. Be glad to hear from you. Thank you.